You not pooping? You want to poop more? This is the video for you. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a holistic way of treating constipation. Stay tuned if you want to learn more. Now, there are two things that are worth mentioning first before we even get into these well-researched and effective treatments for constipation. So first of all, remember that food enters through the mouth, goes through the digestive tube, and then exits through the anus. So when we're talking about poop, we're talking about the exit route. And we can certainly conceptualize this as poop that is lodged somewhere in the digestive tract. But as I mentioned in my last video where we talked about root causes of constipation, I prefer to look at this as a river. And we are looking at what could possibly be impeding the flow of the water from entrance to exit. Is there a beaver dam? Is there a man-made dam? Is there a constricture? Is there a place where the river is less wide or more narrow than it normally would be? Is the river just flowing really slowly in general? Are we in the middle of a drought season? So think about this in terms of flow in a river rather than purely conceptualizing this as poop. Now, as I mentioned in that other video too, addressing the root cause of the constipation is ultimately going to be the most holistic way you can address this. So yeah, the things I'm going to teach you today are really, really cool and really effective. But if the blockage in your river is because you are hypothyroid and your TSH is 8.2, there's not a lot of room to be had talking about the strategies we're going to discuss today. You really need to address the hypothyroidism. Similarly, if your constipation is caused by pelvic floor dysfunction or something else that's more organic, then you can take all the magnesium on planet Earth and you're still going to be bound up. So keep that in mind. Remember, A, flow of the river is the conceptual kind of model we're using, and B, you need to get to the root cause of your constipation above all else before these things that I'm going to mention today are really going to be effective. Now, if you missed this other video where I talk about root causes, I'm going to try really hard to remember to link this. If not, just go back on my channel. It's one video back from this one, and you should be able to watch that one first before rejoining me here. Now, assuming that you went and watched that other video and you're already doing the root causal analysis and the root causal work, let's get into some of these well-researched, well-supported tools and tips and tricks that you could use to treat your constipation, not only holistically, but naturally too. Now, as I mentioned in that other video, I talked about how we can judge the health and the flow of the stream by talking about the water that's going into the stream. So in the case of a river, we might talk about the spring that is bringing up the spring water and filling that river. In this case, we're going to be talking about things like food and drink and supplements that we are consuming that ultimately get passed out of our stool. And as I mentioned in that other video, a lot of this is going to boil down to unsexy, basic kind of stuff, like making sure you're hydrated and drinking enough water, making sure you're getting the appropriate amount of fiber for you. For a lot of people, that means eating more fiber, but sometimes it means eating less fiber. But assuming that you've dialed those things in reasonably well, you've played with fiber, you've increased it, you've decreased it, you've tracked it, you've gotten a number on it, you've looked at hydration, assuming that you've done that sort of basic stuff, there are a few individual foods and tricks that are well supported and well proven to aid in constipation relief. One of them, Grandma knows. Come on. If you were constipated, what did your grandmother tell you to eat? Prunes or prune juice, one or the other. And there actually is some research behind prunes and prune juice. Now, one of the reasons that I have found, at least in my research and reading this, is because of sorbitol, which everybody knows is a FODMAP. So if you consume something like prune juice that has a lot of sorbitol in it, that FODMAP draws water into the bowel and acts as a laxative, and then that helps in elimination. So for somebody who doesn't have an overt FODMAP intolerance issue, but they are a bit constipated, softening the stools with something like a FODMAP can actually help this quite a bit, and prunes are the quintessential version of this. Now, another food that is low in FODMAP, so this would be perfectly reasonable to try even if you're on the low FODMAP diet, are kiwis. And I've seen a couple of different research articles on this. I've seen one with golden kiwi, a green kiwi powder. Doesn't seem to matter much, but 2 kiwis a day has been proven to aid in the treatment of constipation. And they're delicious, they're low FODMAP, they're high in vitamin C and other nutrients. So kiwis absolutely for the win. Another one that, again, has some pretty good research. By the way, I'm going to link a bunch of different research studies in the description down below. So if you want to nerd out and read a little bit, you can have at it. I'm not saying that this is all inclusive, but it's something to kind of wet your whistle with nonetheless. But getting back into our parade of foods, another one that's well supported is flax seeds. Now, I've actually also seen a study or two using flax oil, and there was another one that even said that olive oil in and of itself could be helpful, but flax seeds are really high in fiber and they can also help in treating constipation. So flax seeds for the win. And as I mentioned in that other video too, I don't think that people have a constipation problem because they are coffee deficient per se, but I think a cup or 2 of coffee per day is reasonable if you enjoy it, because it does have anti-inflammatories and polyphenols and good compounds in it that are good for the microbiota. So if you happen to treat your microbiota with a little bit of coffee, so be it. I think that that could be a wonderful microbiome modulating tool for a lot of you who like to drink the bean juice. As you can tell, I am not a coffee drinker myself. But okay, so food, I think we have pretty well squared away. Remember, first question, are you drinking enough water? Question number 2, are you consuming enough fiber? Look up the RDA, compare, use something like Chronometer, make sure you're eating enough. If the answer is yes, the second question is, are you eating too much fiber? Are you like one of these vegan people who's eating pounds and pounds of green beans every day and you're just jamming up your colon with too much fiber? If the answer is no to that and you've played with the fiber thing a little bit, then you might want to get into some of these individual foods, many of which are high fiber, not all, coffee, and you could play with these individual foods to see if they help you with constipation. But what if you're like, man, I'm not changing my diet, no way, no how. Please don't be one of those people. But theoretically, if you're saying, nope, not doing it, I am not changing the way I eat, man, give me a pill. Well, I have good news for you. There are pills that can help with this. So similarly, if we want to think about the pills entering the mouth, so it's still up at the top of this stream, the top of this flow, magnesium is probably the most common, the most popular on the internet. Now, I will say this twofold. Magnesium as an aid for constipation doesn't have as much research as all of the other things that I'm talking about. So it's not as well supported in the evidence as you might think. But also keep in mind that this is probably going to be the miracle cure for somebody if they are actually magnesium deficient. If you're eating enough magnesium and you're not deficient, supplementing with that supplement probably isn't going to do much for you. Same idea where if you have somebody who's iron deficient and they take iron, it's like, the lights come on. But if you have somebody who's not deficient and you give them an iron pill, it's either not going to do anything or make them feel worse, right? So same thing with magnesium. It will work if you are outright deficient. If you're not deficient, it might not do much. So keep that in mind as well. Another one, of course, is probiotics. Now, I'm going to do another whole video, probiotics. I'm going to do another whole video about probiotics for constipation. So hang tight for that, but just rest assured there are numerous different types of probiotics that are helpful for this. A really great resource that's pretty cheap is probioticadvisor.com. It's like 30 or 40 bucks per year for the membership, and you can literally type in constipation and it'll show you a bunch of different research articles looking at this in humans. So if you're not familiar with that tool, well worth the money. But probiotics just across the board seem to be helpful for constipation. I don't know why I have 2 markers in my hand, by the way. I'm only ever using 1. Next up is an herbal remedy that I don't think gets enough press in this day and age, but Triphala, which I used to think was called Triphala. Triphala is a really great Ayurvedic remedy, and not only is it something of a laxative and a prokinetic, which is cool, but also it does seem to have a microbiome modulating quality to it and anti-inflammatory quality to it that I think takes it out of the realm of pure laxative and into the realm of actually holistic treatment method, which is neat. Versus, if you take Miralax every day, that's just a temporary Band-Aid. That's not really curing anything or fixing anything. Triphala might actually be doing a little bit of both, which is neat. There are many different brands. You can get a bunch of different ones, but in the past I've used Organic India. They make one that's in a capsule, and it's a pretty good product from what I've seen. Yeah. Another one that's near and dear to my heart, not surprisingly because I'm the gut microbiome queen after all, are prebiotics and fiber supplements. There are 3 that I think are probably the most effective for constipation across the board, but keep in mind this is going to be individual depending on the nature of your constipation, your microbiome, if you have dysbiosis, if so, what the flavor of that dysbiosis is. So just keep in mind that there are others that could be helpful here too, but Psyllium is by and large going to be the one that comes to mind when you start thinking, oh, fiber supplement for constipation. Let's see, L-L-I-U-M, pretty sure I spelled that right. So Psyllium, this would be something like Metamucil. It is effective. It feeds butyrate producers, which is really nice. But the challenge I find with this is that it's not the most pleasant thing in the world to take because it turns into a big goopy hunk of wad of snot. And not everybody loves that. Similar criticism for the other one I wanted to share, which is Glucomannan. Gosh, do I have enough room next to the colon here? Let's see. Glucomannan. Aha, I squeezed it in. Glucomannan I actually found very helpful when I was kind of tinkering with my constipation. And I talked about that. I did a whole video about what it did for my microbiome. But Glucomannan I thought was fantastic for this. It really moistened and smoothed out and made it easier to pass. And it was just a really nice thing. But again, it does that thickening snot-like quality thing that Psyllium does. It's maybe marginally better taste and texture-wise than Psyllium, but it's still in that category of not the funnest thing to take, which I find is a stopper for some people. The antithesis to this, something that is very easy to take, has basically no flavor, and works really well, is of course our good old friend PHGG, which is partially hydrolyzed guar gum, aka sun fiber. Works great, especially for methane-dominant constipation folk, but I will say, I'm not a methane producer. I've done breath testing, I've done lots of stool testing. I do not have a methanogen overgrowth as far as I can see, and I get enough dietary fiber in my diet. But I still found that introducing a scoop here, a scoop there of PHGG was really helpful for me and my BMs. So I don't know if it's purely a methane thing. I wonder if it's because I fed some of the good guys like Bifido. My point is, if you know that you don't have a methane issue, you might still consider trying PHGG because I find that it can be helpful for constipation even above and beyond the methane thing. And then last but not least, let's use the other color now. I knew I hung on to this for a reason. So we have talked about many things that we can put into the system orally, and that will aid with constipation. And we talked about root causes and the need to address the root causes in the previous video. But there are three other things that I want to make a point of mentioning, and I think they're all kind of intertwined in the structural side of this. So for example, let's get out the pink again. Remember, this digestive tube, this digestive river, has to go through a sling. You have a muscular hammock, a muscular sling, that the colon or the rectum has to pass through in order to get to the outside world. So in this sense, a couple of bonus items that could be really helpful for constipation and are very well supported, at least 2 of the 3 certainly are well supported. One is movement, exercise, particularly any of the musculature in and around here. So I'm talking like core, spinal muscles, hips, hip flexors, any of the muscles in and around here. If you can train them and strengthen them, that could be really helpful for defecation. And again, I'm going to link some articles down below, but exercise, I'm going to shorthand because it's an awkward angle to write at. Exercise or movement is great. Also, I've been a big fan of the squatty potty for a lot of years. I think it's a fantastic position to get yourself in. So the squatty potty can be excellent too. And then as I mentioned in the previous video, pelvic floor dysfunction, a dysfunction A tightening or loosening in this pelvic floor sling is a big component of constipation for many people. So pelvic floor physical therapy, particularly with biofeedback, can be really, really beneficial too. So pelvic floor PT is another really excellent way to try to treat your constipation holistically. Again, by all means, you could do the other things too, but between all of these things on this board, I should scoot over, between all the stuff on this board, this should give you a really good idea of what you can do about constipation moving forward and how you too can poop like a champion. Now, that being said, I know some of you out there are watching this video and thinking, okay, cool lady, but like I've tried a lot of the stuff on that board. I've seen the Kiwi thing on Instagram no less than 7,000 times, and the Kiwis don't do a damn thing for me. And you're wondering if there's any hope left for you, and oh my gosh, I'm out of ideas. I would check out FODMAP Freedom in 90 days. So I'll link it down in the description. FODMAP Freedom is my group coaching program. And this is where, again, like I can share the science of it. I can share the research articles about the Kiwis and the Flaxseeds and the Prunes, but maybe you need a more individualized approach, right? Maybe just regurgitating all of this research and all of this evidence-based stuff isn't going to get you the answer that you need. Maybe you're a little bit more unique. And that's okay. I mean, it's frustrating, but it's okay. But in FODMAP Freedom, I would be much better equipped to help you. So rather than a kind of generic YouTube video where I try to make it applicable for the masses, we could get into the nitty-gritty in our live Q&As and our email support, and I could help you figure out what the root of the problem is for you as an individual. So if you're craving that, if you want a structured program that's thought of damn near everything, and a lot of support and a lot of hand-holding to make sure that you're able to apply the information to you and your life and your symptoms, check out FODMAP Freedom. We'll be enrolling again in just another couple of months here, and I would be honored to help you in your journey so that you too can poop like a champion. Hey guys, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, click the like button, and leave a comment down below with the videos that you would like to see me do next. Doing all of those really helps support the channel and support my efforts in making as many videos as possible for you guys. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.